Imagine a place where fear isn't just a feeling, it's the law. A place where the walls themselves seem alive, whispering the secrets of violence, betrayal, and survival. Where every decision could mean the difference between life and death. Tonight, we take you inside the world's most dangerous prisons, institutions so feared, even hardened criminals hesitate before entering. Stay with us if you dare. And while you're at it, like, share, and subscribe, because this is a story you'll want to follow until the very end. Welcome to Chaos. Prisons are meant to contain criminals, to rehabilitate, to serve justice. But for some, these walls do far more than that. They amplify the worst in human nature. In countries across the world, from Brazil to the United States, from Russia to the Philippines, some prisons have become their own societies, and not the kind you want to live in. Take Carandiru Prison in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Once home to over 8,000 inmates in a facility designed for 2,000, it was a ticking time bomb of violence. Gangs controlled entire cell blocks. Drugs flowed freely, and the guards, often powerless or complicit. In 1992, that tension exploded. The Carandiru massacre, 111 inmates dead in a single day, became a symbol of what happens when chaos reigns. And it wasn't an isolated case. Across the globe, prisons like these have stories that defy belief. Stories of survival against impossible odds, and tales of betrayal that would make your skin crawl. But what makes these prisons truly terrifying isn't just the violence. It's the system itself. Corruption, overcrowding, and neglect create an environment where brutality is normalized, and the rules are written by those who survive by breaking them. The rules you never knew. Step inside and you quickly learn. The official rules are meaningless. In many prisons, unwritten codes govern life. You do not snitch. You do not betray your blockmates. You respect the hierarchy, or you disappear from the conversation entirely. In Goulburn Supermax in Australia, isolation is a weapon of control. Inmates spend 23 hours a day alone, with only a small window to step outside. Sound simple? Think again. The mind begins to twist. Paranoia sets in, and the smallest confrontation can escalate into a life-threatening incident. And then there's ADX Florence, the Alcatraz of the Rockies. Here, the most dangerous criminals in the U.S. are held in solitary confinement. Every movement is controlled, every sound monitored. The psychological pressure is immense. Some inmates report losing the ability to distinguish reality from imagination. Survival isn't just physical, it's mental. And for many, the mind becomes the ultimate battlefield. Stories from inside. Carlos, an inmate at La Sabanita in Venezuela, tells a story that will chill you to the bone. Inmates fought not just for food or smokes, but for the right to exist. Fights could erupt without warning. Guards often turn a blind eye, leaving survival to the strongest or the most cunning. Inmates create their own systems of justice. Betrayal is punished swiftly. Alliances are fragile. Friendships can be fatal. And sometimes, it isn't even the inmates you need to fear. Guards, gang leaders, and corrupt officials have been known to orchestrate killings within the walls, for revenge, for money, or simply for sport. In places like Bang Kwang Prison in Thailand, the Bangkok Hilton, the punishment cells alone have stories that sound like nightmares. These are not exaggerations. These are survival stories, recounted by those who live to tell the tale, if only barely. Riots, revolts, and escapes. Prisons are designed to confine, but confinement often breeds chaos. When desperation meets opportunity, the result can be catastrophic. In 2017, Venezuela's Urabana prison erupted into one of the bloodiest riots in the country's history. Over 60 inmates died in a single night. The fight wasn't just between prisoners. It was between factions, each vying for control, each determined to survive at any cost. Guards struggled to regain order. But by the time they intervened, the damage had already been done. Escapes, too, are a part of prison lore. Some are bold, almost cinematic, while others are brutal and desperate. Take the 1995 escape from the Maze prison in Northern Ireland, famously called the Great Escape. 38 inmates tunneled, climbed, and ran through dozens of layers of security, an operation months in the making. Many were caught. A few vanished into legend. But not all escapes involve meticulous planning. In Brazil, Overcrowded jails often become free-for-alls. When gates are left unattended, when corruption sees guards accepting bribes, inmates slip away. Some make it, most don't. And even those who survive outside often find freedom to be only a brief illusion before the law, or rival gangs catch up. Riots and escapes are more than just headlines. They are glimpses into the raw, unfiltered reality inside these walls. And for the inmates who survive, the aftermath can be even more terrifying than the riot itself. Retaliation is swift. Alliances shift overnight. And anyone seen as weak is a target. Gangs, hierarchies, and survival codes. Within these walls, survival isn't just about strength. It's about understanding the unspoken laws of power. Gangs run entire prisons. They control who eats, who sleeps where, and who survives. New inmates are observed, tested, and often welcomed through brutal hazing rituals. Respect must be earned, or life becomes a constant fight. In the Philippines, at the infamous Cebu Provincial Detention and Rehabilitation Center, inmates built their own society. They elected leaders, established taxes on contraband, and enforced punishments themselves. Guards sometimes acted as spectators or accomplices. The strongest inmates were kings, the weak were invisible, and betrayal was a death sentence. Even inside U.S. prisons, notorious gangs like the Aryan Brotherhood or the Black Guerrilla family wield power behind the scenes. They operate like organized crime within concrete walls. Money, favors, and information become currency, and breaking the gang code is a gamble few survive. Solitary confinement. The mind under siege. Isolation is a weapon. Solitary confinement doesn't just punish the body, it warps the mind. ADX Florence, Colorado, is infamous for this. Inmates spend 23 hours a day alone, with only a small cell for company. Books, letters, and brief exercise are sometimes their only connection to the outside world. The human brain, deprived of social contact, begins to deteriorate. Sleep becomes erratic. Hallucinations set in. Paranoia becomes a constant companion. Some inmates survive months, even years, in this environment. Others never recover. Inmates have described losing the ability to distinguish reality from memory, to forget whether the world outside is real or just another layer of punishment. And yet, many survive through sheer mental endurance, through rituals, routines, and a fragile hope that someday this nightmare will end. Solitary confinement is more than punishment. It is a psychological battlefield, and the stakes are the mind itself. Corruption, bribery, and the system within the system. So the most terrifying aspect of prison life aren't the fights, the riots, or even the gangs. They are the invisible forces that operate quietly behind the scenes. Corruption, bribery, manipulation. In many of the world's most dangerous prisons, guards are often part of the system, not as protectors. They take bribes in exchange for contraband, phones, drugs, even weapons. Some turn a blind eye to gang violence, knowing that the chaos keeps the inmates under control. In Brazil, reports from notorious facilities like Carandiru and Pedrinhas reveal how guards accepted payments from gang leaders to maintain their grip on entire blocks. Inmates could pay for better food, safer cells, or even to avoid punishment. Those who refused or couldn't pay became easy targets. Survival often depended as much on cunning and wealth as on physical strength. The manipulation doesn't stop there. Inmates have perfected a game of influence. Messages slip through cracks. Bribes flow in envelopes. Favors are exchanged in whispers. A single well-placed word or gesture can save a life, or end it. Those who understand the system thrive. Those who don't vanish without notice. In the Philippines, at the Cebu Provincial Detention Center, this was taken to extremes. Prison leaders, known as Datu, controlled the economy within the walls. Even guards often deferred to their authority. Money became survival, loyalty became currency, and betrayal was bought and sold like a commodity. And it's not just developing countries. In the U.S., even maximum security prisons have their shadows. Contraband cell phones allow inmates to control outside operations, communicate with gangs, and manipulate situations inside, sometimes even orchestrating violence against rival inmates. The system is a chessboard, and each move could be deadly. Infamous inmates and their stories. No story of prison danger is complete without the men and women who made these institutions infamous. Consider Charles Manson, not just a criminal, but a symbol of how charisma and manipulation can dominate even the most brutal environments. Inmates like Manson influence others, inciting violence and fear far beyond their own cells. Or take El Chapo Guzman, whose prison stints in Mexico's highest security facilities were marked by tunnels, bribery, and audacious escapes. Even surrounded by concrete and armed guards, he manipulated the system to his advantage, demonstrating that the rules of survival extend far beyond brawn. They rely on strategy, influence, and ruthlessness. Then there are countless lesser-known prisoners, survivors of Carandiru, La Sabanita, or Goulburn Supermax, whose names never make the headlines, but whose stories are equally harrowing. They navigate gang wars, corrupt officials, and mental torment, learning to endure unimaginable conditions. Each has a story of betrayal, narrow escapes from death, and moments where hope feels impossible, yet somehow they survive. Near-death encounters. Violence is constant. Death is never far. And for many inmates, survival comes down to a single moment, an instinctive decision, a flicker of luck, or a silent ally in the shadows. In Venezuela's prisons, inmates recount knife fights erupting in hallways, triggered by nothing more than a misread glance. In Brazil, guards sometimes use live ammunition during riots, leaving survivors permanently scarred. Inmates describe narrowly escaping fires, stabbings, and beatings. They speak of moments when all seemed lost, when death seemed inevitable, and yet, through a combination of cunning, luck, and courage, they pulled through. These are not fictional tales. They are memories burned into the minds of those who live through the hellish reality inside some of the world's deadliest prisons. And sometimes, it isn't the walls or the guards that are the deadliest threat. It's the people you think you can trust. Betrayal can strike anywhere. Friends, allies, even those who swore loyalty. One wrong choice, and your life and behind the bars that were meant to protect you from the world outside. The deadliest prisons on earth. Not all prisons are created equal. Some are hells on earth, where survival is measured not in years, but in hours. Let's step into the darkest corners of the human world, the places you dare not enter. Number 5, La Sabanita Prison, Venezuela. A facility designed for 700 men, once held over 3,700. Overcrowding turned cells into pressure cookers of violence. Guards rarely intervened. Inmates ruled themselves. There were no uniforms, no control, only chaos. One witness described it as a city of fear within walls, where bodies were found daily and the strong fed on the weak. Gangs dictated justice. Weapons were fashioned from anything: broom handles, pipes, and shivs made from melted plastic. At night, screams echoed to the corridors, a symphony of madness that never ended. Number 4, Gitarama Prison, Rwanda. This one defies imagination. After the Rwandan genocide, the prison's population exploded. For times overcapacity, inmates stood shoulder to shoulder, unable to lie down. Some reportedly died standing up, their bodies propped by the living. There was no food, no sanitation, no hope. Cannibalism became a survival tactic. Inmates gnawed at their own wounds to stay alive. A survivor described the experience in one word: hell. Number 3, Carandiru Prison, Brazil. It was once Latin America's largest and certainly one of its bloodiest. The 1992 massacre turned it into a global symbol of horror. 111 dead in a single day. All it took was one riot, one spark. But the truth runs deeper. Carandiru was already a world of its own, overpopulated, corrupt, and overrun by gangs. Guards sold weapons, drugs, even lives. And when the massacre began, the world realized what happens when the system collapses, and chaos becomes king. Number 2, Bang Kwang Prison, Thailand, also called the Bangkok Hilton. Don't let the nickname fool you. There's no luxury here, only pain. Every inmate starts their sentence in shackles. Not metaphorically. Real iron shackles that bite into flesh. Executions were once carried out by machine gun. Death row inmates live in cells barely larger than a closet, awaiting a bullet or injection they may never see coming. Inmates whisper of spirits haunting the halls, restless souls who never found peace. And finally, number 1, ADX Florence, Colorado, USA, the Alcatraz of the Rockies, the most secure prison in America. Its residents, the most dangerous humans alive, terrorists, serial killers, cartel leaders. Inmates spend 23 hours a day in concrete isolation. Their food is slid through a slot. Their exercise happens in a tiny cage with no sky in view. There's no talking, no touch, no mercy. Many call it clean torture, a place where the body survives, but the mind slowly dies. One former warden once said, "It's not designed for living. It's designed for disappearing." Life inside the monster. What happens to a person when they spend years, sometimes decades, in places like these? The answer isn't simple. Inside, the world operates on instinct. Survival replaces morality. Trust is an illusion. A man who once feared prison might become its ruler. A man of faith might lose his soul. And those who escape never truly leave. In the Philippines' new Bilibid prison, entire economies flourish behind the bars. Gambling, luxury goods, even swimming pools funded by drug lords. Inmates live like kings, protected by bribery and influence. But just a few cells away, others rot in filth and hunger. It's not just a prison. It's a parallel universe, one that thrives because it mirrors the corruption of the world outside. In these places, violence isn't random. It's ritual. Survival means adapting to a lawless ecosystem, where every glance, every silence, every heartbeat counts. To live, you must learn one thing above all. In prison, mercy is a weakness, and weakness is fatal. The broken, even those who survive, physically rarely escape mentally. The human mind is not built for such confinement, for the endless echo of screams, the scent of blood, and the sound of keys that never open freedom. Inmates describe recurring dreams, doors that lead nowhere, faces of those they've killed or lost, shadows that speak their names in the dark. Psychologists call it institutionalization, the process where a man becomes part of the prison, not by choice but by necessity. They forget how to look people in the eye. They walk in straight lines. They sleep light, ears tuned for footsteps. And when they're finally released, if they're lucky enough to leave, the world outside feels alien, too bright, too open, too free. For some, freedom becomes a real prison. Escape dreams and impossible breakouts. Every inmate dreams of freedom. But inside the world's deadliest prisons, dreaming is the easy part. Escaping? That's something else entirely. Tunnels, disguises, bribes, inside help. Each breakout reads like a movie script written in blood and desperation. In 1971, a prisoner named Billy Hayes slipped out of Turkey's Bakırköy prison. He hid among garbage carts, waded through a river, and vanished into the darkness. For months, the guards believed he'd drowned. His story inspired Midnight Express. But for every Billy Hayes who makes it out, 100 die trying. In Mexico, El Chapo Guzman built his own way out, literally. His tunnel was lit, ventilated, and equipped with a motorbike. He rode to freedom, waving at cameras as if mocking the very idea of captivity. And then there's a legend of the Carandero Ghost Tunnel, an old sewage line that supposedly connected the yard to the outside wall. Dozens tried to crawl through over the decades. Some never returned. Guards claimed the line collapsed. Inmates swore it was haunted, that screams echoed from the soil long after the last attempt. Every prison has its myths of freedom. But even when an escape succeeds, the world outside isn't always salvation. Many ex-inmates say the air tastes wrong, the silence feels heavy. Because once you've lived inside a cage, even the sky can feel like another kind of ceiling. The haunted cell blocks. When darkness falls over a prison, a strange quiet settles. Metal doors sigh, pipes groan, and somewhere deep inside, voices start to whisper. In Bangkwang, guards refuse to patrol certain corridors at night. They say the spirits of executed men still pace there, chains rattling softly. One officer swears he saw an empty cell slam shut on its own, twice. At La Sabanita, inmates talk about Cell 12B, the room of the condemned. They claim anyone locked there hears the last words of those who died during the 1994 riot. More than once, prisoners begged to be moved, saying they felt cold hands gripping their ankles as they tried to sleep. Even the sterile walls of ADX Florence have their whispers. Some guards joke about phantom footsteps echoing down the empty concrete corridors. Others don't laugh. They say the building remembers every scream. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, the energy inside these places is undeniable. Pain leaves traces. And when thousands suffer behind the same walls, it's easy to think the walls might start to breathe. The economy of survival. Where the state fails to provide, the inmates invent. Economies rise inside concrete. Cigarettes once ruled as currency. Now it's instant noodles, phone time, and information. One ramen packet can buy protection. A SIM card can buy loyalty. At New Bilibid prison in Manila, the black market rivals a small city. Drugs, weapons, even luxury watches. Everything has a price. Inside San Pedro prison in Bolivia, cells are bought and sold like apartments. Families live inside with inmates. Children go to school behind bars. Tourists once paid to visit, until the government shut it down after too many accidents. Power follows money. Money follows fear. And fear is the one resource that never runs out. In here, every favor costs. Every meal, every safe night, every breath without blood, someone, somewhere, paid for it. Because in the world's deadliest prisons, the price of survival is never free. Psychology of survival. What keeps a person alive when hope disappears? For some, it's faith. For others, vengeance. Many carve calendars into the wall. Each mark a small act of rebellion. Some talk to insects, name the rats that visit their cells, recite entire movies from memory just to remember what normal sounded like. Psychologists who study long-term inmates say survival depends on creating meaning, even in meaninglessness. You clean the same patch of floor every morning. You count the steps from wall to wall. You breathe, not because you want to, but because stopping would mean letting the prison win. Those who survive longest aren't always the strongest. They're the ones who can live inside their own minds without losing themselves. Loyalty and betrayal. In a place where trust can kill you, loyalty becomes both armor and weapon. Inside every prison block, alliances form the moment the doors close. You share food, protect each other during riots, whisper warnings before a search. But every favor binds you tighter, and every debt can end in blood. An inmate in Padrinha's prison once said, "There are no friends here, only temporary peace." He was right. One day you share a meal with your cellmate. The next, he sells your name for a cigarette. In Brazil, gang codes dictate that betrayal be punished publicly. The punishment isn't meant just for the traitor. It's a message, a reminder that loyalty here is paid in scars. And yet, even amid the violence, true bonds sometimes appear. Two men guarding each other's backs through years of confinement. One dies. The other carves his name into the wall, beside his own. In a world built on treachery, that simple act becomes defiance. In prison, betrayal is currency. But loyalty is legend. Freedom and aftermath. What happens when the gates finally open? For most, freedom feels unreal. The sky seems too wide, colors too bright. Every sudden sound triggers a flinch. Former inmates describe walking down crowded streets and feeling trapped again. The noise, the choices, the memories pressing in from all sides. They search for silence, for walls, for control, and realize the walls have followed them. Inmates who spent years in solitary often struggle to speak, to make eye contact, to sleep in darkness without the hum of fluorescent lights. They miss the routines that once enslaved them, because in the end, the mind learns to survive captivity by making it familiar. And when freedom comes, familiarity dies. So some go back, some reoffend, not because they crave crime, but because they understand prison better than the world outside. Freedom is supposed to heal. But for many, it only opens a new kind of cage, one built inside the mind. Reflections on justice. Prisons were meant to be instruments of justice. But after everything you've heard, what justice truly lives within these walls? When corruption replaces order, when survival outweighs reform. Do prisons still protect society, or simply hide its failures? Governments build stronger fences, tighter locks, deeper cells. Yet crime grows bolder, and despair seeps through the cracks. The question isn't whether these prisons are harsh enough. It's whether they change anything at all. If cruelty breeds cruelty, if isolation erases identity, then maybe punishment alone is the slowest path to chaos. Justice without humanity is just another prison. Echoes in the concrete. Listen, can you hear it? The echo beneath the concrete. The heartbeat of thousands still trapped between guilt and survival. Every wall holds a story. Of crimes committed, of lives wasted, of hope that refuses to die. They say the system keeps us safe, but safety built on silence is just another form of fear. Somewhere right now a cell door slams. A man counts the seconds until morning. Another wonders if he'll live to see it. And out here we tell their stories, because remembering is the only freedom they still have. So if you've stayed with us this far, share and subscribe, not just for this story, but for every voice still echoing behind the bars of a world that dares to call itself free. Some stories end with freedom. Others just fade into the noise of locked doors and forgotten names. But inside these walls, even silence has a voice that whispers the truth about power, corruption, and survival. If this story made you see the world a little differently, don't let it vanish into the dark. Hit like, share this story with someone who thinks they understand justice, and subscribe because we're just getting started. The next story might be darker than the last,